guys? Jeff Cavalier, ATHLEAN-X.com. You want to get a little bit broy? Well, we'll start talking about muscle pumps. But before you actually think that we are going down the bro science road, it's actually not. You see, real science backs up the justification for why you might actually want to be chasing that pump. And I'm going to break that all down for you here today with one big caveat, and I'll explain that in 1 second. First of all, what is the pump? The pump, if we have a muscle cell, okay, is not just due to the influx of blood. Because as a matter of fact, blood is not going to be flowing into your muscle cells. What you're going to get into your muscle cells is water. Okay, because as we train, we get metabolic breakdown, metabolic byproducts that come from our training. Lactate being one of them, okay, and it accumulates inside the cell. Well, when anytime we have this big influx or concentration, a higher concentration of something inside the cell, then the body wants to equilibrate that. It wants to have water flow in from the outside of the cell to try to diffuse that and equalize the concentrations of stuff inside and outside. Well, with this great influx of water, we then have this increased size of the muscle cell itself. Of course, on the outside of that, if we're looking at the muscle belly, we do get blood flow that comes in around that muscle belly that also increases the size of the overall muscle that you're seeing and experiencing. That's the pump. Now, why does that happen? The blood comes in here and it can't leave as fast as it's coming in. A lot of that has to do with just the position of the muscle or the limb when you're training. If you're doing a bicep curl, most of your action occurs right here near peak contraction. Remember that, because I'm going to come back to that in 1 minute. Near peak contraction here, the blood simply doesn't have an equal chance of leaving as fast as it's coming in. So you do get that accumulation in there of that noticeable swelling. But of course, it's this inside cell swelling that's just as important. Now, why is that important? Because as this cell starts to swell, it actually sends a signal not only to increase protein synthesis, as some new research is showing, but it also sends this signal to the cell of, oh shit, this thing is starting to cause some tension on my walls. Okay, all this influx of water is causing some tension on the walls of this cell to the point where it might fear that it could burst or break open. Well, what it will do is it won't break open, but it will actually send a signal to start fortifying the strength of the walls of that muscle cell. As it fortifies, you can see what will happen is it might actually start to get a little bit bigger as the wall gets a little bit thicker. Well, if you multiply that times millions as you have all of your muscle cells next to each other, okay, then you start to increase the size of that overall muscle. So in the long run, yes, you could get some hypertrophy response because of this. We also know that a hydrated cell is a good cell to have if you want to grow. Now that brings us back to a point of growing versus strength. If we're talking about strength training, if we're talking about training in the very low rep ranges, then no, you're not really going to experience a muscle pump for a couple of reasons. A lot of the exercises that are done at low rep ranges, let's just say like a hang clean, okay, or a snatch or some type of high power low rep movement, even a bench press done for just 3 reps or 4 reps is not enough of a targeted muscle contraction, any in one particular muscle, to cause a pump to really be maximized. So now, let's go back to the whole point. Is it really necessary? We're going to qualify it. It better be a high tension overload exercise that is related to the pump. Because I can grab this band right here next to me, and we all know that if I sit here and I do curls like this with no tension, no real overload, that is tension but nothing really significant, no real overload, okay, if I do this for about a minute to a minute and a half, I will definitely get it pumping this muscle. But do you think that's enough to cause a hypertrophic response? No chance. No chance. So just going after the pump alone is never going to give you the gains that you want. You have to always accompany a pump with a high load, high tension, overload type activity. So what's the best way to do it? Well, here we go. The best way to do it is to do some high tension, high load, weighted, heavy weighted movements that you simply drop down and do a drop set from. So if you do a 6 to 8 rep max exercise, drop it down to half the weight and rep out until failure. Now you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting all that tension and then you're carrying it through additionally to this point of pump, because you're actually now having more metabolic byproducts because of that lengthened set. You're having more accumulative tension over time, and you're getting all the benefits of the blood coming in here. The second thing you're going to want to do, if you're looking to maximize pump, is choose some exercises that will allow you to do it. The best way to do that is to choose exercises that allow you to experience peak contraction at some point. Again, a power clean. Again, an overhead snatch. There's no real contraction moment in any of those exercises. Those wouldn't really lend themselves to a pump. If you want to get a pump, tricep pushdowns, peak contraction. Bicep curls, peak contraction. You can do tricep line, tricep extensions and load up the weight. You're getting a peak contraction and you're getting an overload, so it's a great exercise. But you're going to want to make sure that you're choosing the right ones to make sure that you're allowing yourself to get that tension in the parts of the range of motion that matter most. And for anybody that follows our ATHLEAN-X programming, we actually sometimes overlap strength curves because we know that if we take a bicep curl with weights and with tubing at the same time, that the strength curve we can maximize through the middle and the end by using both things at the same time, the tubing and the weights, to allow us an even better opportunity to overload and create the pump. So, that being said, guys, hopefully you can see that while it may all be about that base, it may not be always about that pump unless you are training the pump the right way. It starts with heavy movements, it starts with seeking overload any opportunity that you can, and it starts with maximizing tension, and then you can start worrying about the pump and ways to maximize that within. Guys, we lay that all out for you. I program it in all different ways throughout our training program to make sure that you're not just chasing one thing blindly, but that you're working on everything that you need to at the right time. We put it all together in our ATHLEAN-X training system. If you haven't already, guys, head to ATHLEAN-X.com right now. Get our ATHLEAN-X training system. Let me coach you through every single workout. I guarantee you, I'll get you more than just a pump. I'll get you the best body that you've got ever in the next 90 days. All right, guys, we'll be back here again soon. Make sure you leave your comments and thumbs up below. Whatever else it is that you want to see me cover, leave it. You know, guys, 3 videos a week. I will make sure I do that. All right, I'll be back here again real soon.